So if you guys want to know where you can get all this gear that we're using, I'll put a link in the description after this video goes live. But let's get started. And of course, as always, you can post any questions you have and I'll try to make up believable answers. Okay, so hello coffee lovers, and we are here today to share with you how we brew our coffee in the Kalita Wave. I'm gonna have links in the description to all the gear that we're gonna talk about and the variables that make a difference and some pros and cons, because it's not a perfect way to make coffee, but I find that it is one of my daily go-tos. There's pretty much 3 different methods that I'm using daily, and I'll go into details of the other ones in another episode. But the AeroPress, and I've got some videos on that, the Kalita Wave, and also the Chemex. What's really quite odd is that depending on what your bean's characteristics are and what flavors you want to eke out of the bean, I find that the different methods of making coffee matter, and it actually changes the flavor of the coffee that you get. What's really interesting is that I find the cleanest or brightest cup to be the Chemex, but I think that there's like a conspiracy. I'm not sure if anybody's seen around the web where there's all these different ideas about how long it takes to caramelize onions. Some say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It takes like half an hour to caramelize onions, let's be honest here. Same with coffee. People say the Chemex, your extraction time should be 3 to 4 minutes. And I can never get that, especially for 2 cups of coffee. It takes more like 5 to 6 minutes. And so I'll discuss that in another video. But the Kalita Wave, this thing is amazing. It's so simple and great to get a good cup of coffee. And like any great cup of coffee, you got to start with good beans. And so today we are brewing from Pilot. And this was a gift to me. Thank you, Joey, so much for sending these over. And this in particular one, El Limoncello, says that it has flavors of black tea, lemon, and is silky. So this is really quite cool. It is a washed bean, so traditionally so it's processed by washing the cherry off. But yeah, we're gonna brew this one. So once you've got your good quality beans, the next step is grinding. And I've already ground my beans here because my grinder is super loud. You want to get a good burr grinder, not one of those blade grinders. Oops, sorry, I'm running out of batteries, so I'm going to turn on my battery pack here. And there we go. The burr grinders are going to give you a much more consistent particle size, and the consistent particle size is necessary to get a good extraction. The blades just kind of whirl around and chops it like a blender. And the problem with that, you don't know, like you're going to get some fines and you're going to get some big particles, and that's not going to be a good extraction. So I've got this ginormous Macap here, but you can even get a hand grinder, and I'll add links to hand grinders as well. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to get a great cup of coffee. And we've got hacks as well where we use a hand grinder and I add a power drill so that I can get my coffee faster in the morning. All right, so I've got my coffee ground. Oh, and this is the Kalita Wave. It comes in 2 sizes. This is the 185. There's a 155, which is tiny. Hey man, I'm Asian. This channel is called Not So Ancient Chinese Secrets. But I mean, the Japanese sizes, this is made in Japan, for the 155 is tiny. And I couldn't imagine using such a small cup to make coffee. So the 185 is what I recommend. And honestly, it can't make more than 2 cups of coffee at once, just because you need to not only leave room for the water, but also it just gets clogged up and it takes too long to drain. Okay, so grind size, you're gonna want about a drip, and that works pretty well. But here's the magic and why it's called the Kalita Wave. It's not because of these waves here, it's because of the filters. The filters are really special because you'll notice that they look like those Bunn coffee maker filters, but alas, they are different. So those waves and the flat bottom is what makes the Kalita Wave extraction so easy and good. Unlike the Chemex, which has a very pointy filter, and so everything comes out of the tip, this one's much easier because you can get even extraction as your coffee is sitting in the water. Now, here's the first tip for the Kalita Wave. it matters that there are no little wrinkles in your filter, okay? So there's a wrinkle in the filter. And if you have a wrinkle in the filter before you wet it, then it'll actually stay crushed, and that's not a good thing. So here it is. We've got this going in here. Let me get my cup, and my cup of choice is the Bodum Pavina. We've got links to everything. I'll put links down below for everything. But let's take a look at this first. And when you wet it, let me just raise you up a bit here. You can do it. You can do it. Height challenged. Here we go. Right over here. Let's get closer. Here we go. When you wet the paper, just make sure that it's seated down below. And then you just pour on all the edges with your hot water. And let it drain. And this does two things. One, it sticks the paper to the ridges of the Kalita Wave. And two, it warms your cup. That's really nice as well. Now, I should note that the kettle I'm using is a variable temperature Bonavita, which is really popular. And this is cool because you can experiment with what temperature of water you like best. And you know what? You wouldn't believe what a difference in 5 degrees Fahrenheit makes in the flavor of your coffee. Now again, it's not going to matter much if you've got like a cheaper bean, but if you've got a good quality bean that you want to kind of eke out all the flavors you can, then changing your temperature and figuring that out is going to be great. Israel, good to see you here again, man. Good morning. Now I'm going to just dump out the water, so you want to get rid of that water. And again, you want to make sure, look at that, that's a beautiful filter placement. And so here we go. And we're going to talk about some of the things that I wouldn't recommend, and they have some models of the Kalita that I don't like, and I have already broken. This is not my first one, sadly. Okay, so I've got my grinds in here. So this is not, I'm not using the doser on my Mac as a doser. I've already pre-measured 20 grams of coffee. So and I'm not sure if my iPhone camera is good enough to see this, but the grind is going to be a drip grind, okay? So nothing terribly exciting with that. But you want the burr grinder so that you can get a really even and consistent grind there. And so again, this is 20 grams of coffee. My temperature of choice is 190 degrees Fahrenheit. I like that over hotter temperatures personally. But again, experiment. You don't want to just try it because I said it. You want to make sure that it's what you like for flavors. You need a scale as well. I'm just going to zero my scale. For 20 grams of coffee, I'm going to do 300 grams of water. You're right, Daniel. That is a great grinder. I've had it for eons, and it's never let me down. And a funny story is my father-in-law, once when I was away traveling for work, tried to use the coffee grinder to grind his herbs and spices. It was not a good idea. I ended up having to take the whole thing apart, cleaning up all the burrs. But at least it's still working without having to take a trip to somebody to repair it. All right, so let's take a look at this. And I'm going to raise you up even higher because it looks like we'll need to get a bird's eye view here to really see what I am doing. Okay, so now that I'm on the actual, ooh, can I do this? I'm not sure if I can. There we go. Yeah, father-in-laws. Don't tell him I said that. I don't think he's on YouTube. Oh, darn. I think he watches my YouTube. Oh, sorry, Dad. Okay, all's forgiven, right? Okay. Okay, so I've got my bed of grinds. I usually shake it so that it's flat. Okay, you can't really tell there, but it is flat on the bottom. Now, here's the key. When you're pouring any pour over in Chemex or Hario or Kalita Wave, it doesn't really matter. What you want to do, and why the Bonita kettle is so awesome with this gooseneck spout, is because you can get really close to the grinds. And so you can get your tip of your spout really close to the lip of the actual Kalita filter. Because what you don't want is to splash the coffee grinds, okay? You want to very gently wet the grinds. And there's going to be two phases. One, you're going to wait for the coffee to bloom. And that's when you want to make sure that the carbon dioxide expels from the, I think it's carbon dioxide, expels from the coffee beans. And at that point, because it's getting off gas and you'll see a little bit of bubbles, it's pretty fresh coffee, then you can't really extract the coffee at that time. But what you want to do is wait for about 30-40 seconds. Oh, there's a couple of deer outside. Very nice. They're just having coffee with me. Anyways, but I'm not sure if you can see the deer. Let's go take a look at the deer. Deer? They're right over here, the deer. Okay. Hi, deer. Okay, back to coffee. Okay, back to coffee. Sorry for that interruption. I just love seeing deer out during the day. Okay, so right now that's what we're going to do. And I'll set a timer here. And honestly, okay, everybody asks, what grind do I have to use? Well, you want to aim for an extraction time, especially for 20 grams for 1 cup, between 3 to 4 minutes, no longer than that. So watch these, and I'm going to start my clock. Clear, clear, clear. And now zero your tare, your scale. And again, with the tip close to the edge of the Kalita, just wet the grounds. And usually you'll need at least twice as much water as you do beans. And so again, I've put 20 grams of beans in there, grinds, and so I just put in about 76. You want to at least have double the weight in water as you'd wait for the bloom phase. And you see the gas coming out there. Let me just get a little bit closer here and see if you can see this. Here we go. So there is our beautiful blooming, and it's pretty fast bloom. I do roast my own coffee, and with those roasts, it does take longer. But now I'm just going to slowly, with the spout close to it, let it go. And of course, I forgot to start my timer. Bad, Dave. I'll start that now, just for kicks. And what I want to do, you don't have to be too careful. Unlike the Chemex, this one you can actually just keep on adding as you wish, but I don't want it to get dry. You don't want to let your beans get entirely dry. Why? Because if your beans get dry, then you won't have a good extraction because the temperature won't be there. All right, you're gonna let the beans cool, which is not good. So if you take a look, whenever I put my water back on my kettle, I press my hold button, and that makes sure that the temperature stays at 190 exactly. Okay, so every time it gets a little bit lower, I just keep on adding water here. That's as simple as it gets. And if I'm making 2 cups in the morning, like I do for my wife and I in the morning, what I'll do is, of course, you'll raise it up a little bit higher. But why am I not raising it too high? Because then the grinds will all stick to the walls of the Kalita, and that's not what I want. I want to make sure the flavor goes down into my cup, not out the walls. And you know, sometimes I go out the edges, and you'll notice that as I add water, I slowly go around the edges more and more to get the edge grinds down, so I make sure that they're submerged. And again, because the flat bottom, it's actually very nice to be able to have the ability to get all that coffee flavor out. So this is the Kalita Wave. Now we're almost there at 270. And my last pour, I'm just going to go right down the center here until I hit 300. And I'm a happy camper. Then we just let it drain and we drink. So while we're doing that, there's a couple of tips that I have. And besides the actual pour, some models that I wouldn't get the glass ones, to be honest. And especially, there's one really sexy one. It's this one. And guess what? Kalita looks pretty inspired by the Chemex, right? So the Kalita Wave, they come as this piece, and there's a piece of metal that used to go in here and a glass filter. But the problem was that I broke the glass. This glass that Kalita Wave is made out of is really quite thin. I'm sure it's borosilicate, so it is going to be good for, you know, thermal shock, but the Chemex is a much thicker material, so much better made. Now for the Kalita Wave, this one was the actual piece of glass where the filter sat was so thin, it was so easy to shatter. So I do not recommend this one. Although I did like the fact that the collar was not wood. Like, this looks beautiful, but it's a pain in the butt to wash because it'll rot, right? And so this one was great, but it does leave kind of weird markings every so often. But it is nice as a gloss, you know, for water and stuff. Can I use Kalita Wave on Chemex? Sadly, no. I have tried to use, well, okay, that being said, watch this. Okay, so this is the Chemex. This is an 8-cup Chemex. Why would they make this? I'll do another one with Chemex, but I don't know why they make an 8-cup. There's no way you can make 8 cups out of here. It takes too long to drain. Okay, But here's my Kalita Wave, and the problem is, you know, it doesn't, well, I guess you could, it kind of sits in there, but why would you want to do this? Because it's not really made for it, hey? And I've tried putting the filter, the paper filter, into the Chemex without this little thingy, the actual tray, and it hasn't worked. The pressure of the water, the weight of the water and the grinds was too heavy for it to go, and it just kind of submerged and kind of broke my Kalita Wave. So anyways, here is the spent coffee, right? Put that in the sink. And here is my beautiful brew. Delicious. It's a bit hot for me to drink right now, but the other couple models that they do sell, they have another one that looks very similar to this metal one that I just used, but the problem with that is also glass. And the Sweet Home did a review of all the Kalita Waves, and I've had the Kalita Wave for years, but glass has a little bit better thermal conductivity than metal does, but honestly, because you're pouring the water constantly onto your Kalita Wave, the thermal difference is negligible, okay? So definitely not a big deal. And the stainless steel, I love drinking out of glass, but now I'm being more pragmatic and I like the metal coffee maker versus the glass coffee maker. So I'm gonna have links in the description below. And this is a beautiful cup of Java. And so thanks for being here. That is the Kalita Wave coffee maker with some of the tips. And I will repost and put links in the description. Thanks for being here. Happy Wednesday. And God bless. I'll see you guys tomorrow.